Hey Stephanie, how you doing today? Good to see you.
Good to see you too, Kayo. I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm doing fantastic. I can't complain at all. How's your day been so far?
It's good. It's early here in California, so just getting started. Got my tea and ready to chat.
Perfect, perfect. Well, yeah, let the viewers know who you are, what you do, and why you do it, Stephanie.
Sure. My name is Stephanie Salem. I'm a dating and empowerment coach, and I work with clients who are feeling frustrated in their dating cycles, feeling like they're trapped in unhealthy patterns, and have gotten to that point where they're ready to make a change. They're ready to do something big and have a sense that they have the power to make the changes because I think we can often get into that victim mentality when we're in those frustrating patterns in dating. And at least for me, what happened in my own life was that I recognize that if I am the common thread in my past relationships, that means I also have the power to change things and make them better. So that's when I get clients coming to me feeling frustrated and ready to try something different. And the reason I got into this work is obviously from personal experience. I think that's true with a lot of coaches and a lot of therapists, but also from seeing the people around me. I have really great communities of strong, powerful humans, and I saw us all falling into these same patterns of making ourselves small or pursuing below our standards. And it just really got me thinking, why do we do this? And there must be a way to do things differently because you know, I'm a hopeless romantic at heart. And I think we all deserve to find the love that we really want, the love that makes us happy, makes us feel fulfilled, makes us feel safe. And we just aren't taught how to do that. We're told to get into relationships and we're not given a roadmap. So that's really why I got into this to help people, to help guide people to what it is they really want and to not make detours along the way.
Yeah, fantastic, fantastic. Like you mentioned, like a lot of people that get into the profession of relationship coaching, they have things in their life that they have overcome that before they want to get into it, so they can now help people from what they've learned and things like that. So when you look back at your journey before you started helping people with their relationships, what was your mind process or what was going through your mind at the time when you was thinking, this is actually what I want to do going forward? I can see myself being able to do this. What was your mind process at that time?
Yeah, I think I've always been a good listener. I've always enjoyed giving people advice and hearing what it is they have to say, giving them space to share what's on their mind. And it was after a lot of my own journeys, both professionally and personally. Like I went to school, I got my degree in mental health counseling. So I was on track to be a therapist, and it got to a point where I was thinking about the kind of work that therapists do versus what coaches do, which I think is often a lot more action oriented. And I have benefited so much from attending therapy, and I think therapy is absolutely the first step in all of these processes. But I just got really curious about what it is that coaching could do, kind of catalyze on some of the insight that people have already gained and use that to really jumpstart their journeys. And I was saying it came from my own personal journeys. So I went through a breakup a few years ago. And as I was healing and getting back out into the dating world and seeing myself falling into the same patterns that I had previously, it I realized that what I was doing was I wasn't giving myself what I wanted from a partner. So I wasn't giving myself quality time. I wasn't treating myself with kindness. And that's where my whole journey started. And I realized that if I could change, then I wanted to share that with other people too.
For sure, for sure. Now, like, you mentioned you just went through a breakup recently, and you also mentioned in your past relationships, you recognize that you were the common threat in the situations that weren't transpiring the way you would like them to transpire. So, like, we all go through different struggles in relationships, and we do overcome those to get to where we are now. So, like, when you say you were the common threat, what kind of attributes did you recognize in yourself that made you the common threat?
Yeah, and I want to give a little disclaimer that this isn't about blame or assigning blame or beating up on yourself. It's really about accountability and with that accountability, feeling empowered to do things differently. And what I was doing was not setting boundaries, not communicating my needs. And I realized that it's not on another person to read my mind. And if I am not speaking up for myself, and if I don't go into situations feeling empowered to set my boundaries, then why would anyone else know to treat me in those ways? So that's where it started for me, was recognizing that there are things I could be doing to ask for a different treatment, and that I also had the power to walk away in situations that weren't serving me because, I always want to see relationships succeed. So I think, like many of us, I have a tendency to stick around even when it's not a particularly compatible fit. And so it was recognizing that I have just as much power as the other person in this dynamic, and that it's not all on them to, first of all, read my mind, but also, create the perfect environment for a relationship. It's just as much on me to do that, both for them and for myself.
Excellent, excellent. Now, like, you talking about like people not being able to read your mind, and if you don't communicate, they won't really know what's going on. Would you say that like your partner at the time was also lacking communication, or was your partner able to communicate, and was it both of you like, or was it both of you like having issues with communication at the time?
I think he was much better at communicating than I was. Um, but the other problem there is that we didn't do a great job at communicating with each other. People talk about the love languages all the time. And so it's not just about knowing what you want, it's about figuring out how to communicate with your partner in a way that they'll hear and process and understand, and teaching them how to do the same for you. So it wasn't just that I wasn't communicating, and it wasn't just that he was. It was that we didn't take enough time to figure out how to talk to each other in a way that was actually productive so that we could not just bring up issues, but move through them and come out on the other side with a better solution.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. There's many people that would love to be able to communicate better with their partner, but like they don't want to feel like they're complaining about something, and vice versa, their partner doesn't want to feel like they're complaining as well. So when you talk about like knowing each other's love languages and knowing how to communicate with each other, what is the best way, in your opinion, to figure out the way to communicate with your partner so they can understand?
That is a great question. And I think it starts with yourself. So this is kind of the cornerstone of my work, is starting with you. And by that, I mean you have to understand what it is that you're looking for and what you want in communication, in a relationship. And once you figure that out, you feel confident in your ability to communicate that to another person. And having gone through that work yourself, you know what questions to ask another person in order to understand them in the ways that you've come to understand yourself. And I also think that in doing the internal work, you're able to model for another person how you want to be treated. And I think it gives space for them to do the same or for them to lean on you for a little extra support. So I think it starts internally with figuring out your way of communication and your pain points because that's what happens in relationships. People hit on each other's pain points and we start taking things personally, and I think that's where communication really breaks down. But if you're aware of what's going on for you, then you can be more on top of communicating it to another person. And in terms of different questions to ask in order to figure out how someone wants to be communicated with, I think it can be as simple as asking, how do you like to handle conflict? Do you like to take space or do you want to deal with it head on right in the moment? So I think sometimes we can be reluctant to ask those direct questions because it feels either too pushy or too vulnerable, but sometimes that is just the best course of action to ask the direct question with compassion, with curiosity, with kindness. And that's the other thing is curiosity is key. You're you're invested in figuring out how to communicate with your partner because you want to treat them well, not because they are some sort of puzzle to unlock, but because you want to be in connection with them.
Right. So, like, what would you say to like, because some women would say, like, I would like a partner who knows how to figure me out, like, who can just read my kind of emotions and understand me through like the way I am feeling. So, like, that kind of sounds like a puzzle to figure out from what you were saying. So, what would you say to these type of women who feel this type of way?
First of all, I would say, I get it. I've been there. And I think we have often been taught to really suppress our emotions, like across all genders. We've been taught to suppress our emotions. And so when it comes to being in partnership with another person, there's that desire to keep it suppressed and hope that they will figure it out so that we don't have to, you know, throw a bomb into the arena. But the first question I would ask them is, do you know what you're feeling? Because I think sometimes we just don't. We're not really given great emotional language. And so it starts with figuring yourself out. And while I understand that we want to stay in that safety of having someone else figure me out, it doesn't take away from the connection to give your partner like the cheat codes for understanding you. Like I had a client once who I told them, what if you asked your partner to do XYZ for you? What if you told them that when you're having a tough day, you love getting flowers? It makes you feel better. And she said, well, it would feel less special. And I thought, okay, let's play this out. Let's visualize this situation. You tell your partner, I like getting flowers when I'm having a tough day because it makes me feel better. And they say, okay, I hear that. And a month later, you have a tough day and they show up with flowers. Does that feel any worse than if they had done it out of the blue? Or does it still feel just as special? And maybe even more so because they've not only heard you, they've locked that information in because they care about your happiness. So I think while there's a tendency to avoid those kinds of conversations, it is always in all of our best interests to give our partner an easier time. Because like I said before, none of us are mind readers. We can try really hard, and some people are really good at that. But when it comes down to it, it's no one else's job to understand you if you don't first understand yourself.
Yeah, yeah, definitely true, definitely true. And sometimes women would like to just see if they're like women that want a partner that is able to lead their relationship. Like that's not all women that are like that. But talking about women that would like their partner to be able to lead their relationship, sometimes they might say something just to see if their partner is going to be controllable or if or to just to see their partner's reaction. And sometimes if their partner just goes along with whatever they say, it kind of feels like you didn't get the point. Like I just wanted you to be able to stand up for yourself and like so I could feel like a woman is what she was actually thinking. So in the example that you gave of like, oh, I would like you to bring me flowers when I'm feeling down. Sometimes if she was looking for him to be more spontaneous with his actions, if he actually does that, she is now feeling like I actually wanted you to take control of the situation in your way, but you kind of followed my way, and it kind of lets her down again. What is your opinion on that type of dynamic when that happens?
I think that we can get stuck in the specifics. So I think about this a lot in terms of standards, in terms of red flags. We might have really specific requirements for a partner, and that can block us off from something that aligns with the underlying value, but doesn't look the way we're expecting it. So, what I always encourage my clients to do is to examine the underlying values. So, for example, if they want a partner who will spontaneously give them gifts or who will pay close attention to their emotions and take action to take care of them. The underlying value might be something like an ability to nurture, compassion, empathy, spontaneity can be a value or a sense of adventure. And those can look different than being showered with gifts or having someone who can read your mind. So I always encourage people to examine the underlying values first. Because like you said, if it feels like less than what you desired, if you want someone to take initiative, initiative can look different. And, just because you've given them a little extra information doesn't mean they aren't still taking the initiative. They've internalized that information and they're doing something with it. They're still taking initiative and doing something to take care of you. So I think when we start to get caught up in the little minutia of, well, so nice that he gave me flowers, but I want to know what he wants to do for me. Well, maybe what he wants to do for you is give you what you ask for. So he's still doing that. And can you, yes, acknowledge that you want something specific, but also notice how they're stepping up in a way that still aligns with the value.
Yeah, 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 for sure, for sure. Yeah, like, and also some people like they feel like the relationship can become a thing where it feels like mind games and it gets frustrating for them where they just want to focus on their career now. Like they had enough of the mind games for now. So they immerse themselves into their professional life more because it's more controllable. It is what it is. It is what it says on a tin. So when they start to immerse themselves in their professional life, they start to neglect their personal and intimate life to the point that it
Mhm.
starts to create a gap and they don't know how to bridge that gap again. So, what is your opinion on how someone can once again bridge that gap after immersing themselves so much in their professional life and causing a gap between them and their intimate self?
Yeah, great question. And I answer from personal experience here. Dating, I think any social skill, but especially dating, intimacy, being vulnerable with another person, it's all a muscle. So if you've been out of the game for a while, immersed in that professional life, yeah, it's gonna feel like a rough transition because you're not used to it. It's like diving back into a workout after taking a month off. It's gonna be a little painful. But if you keep practicing, then those skills that we all have, they're going to come back to you and you're going to be able to get back into the game. And I think sometimes that like little bit of a bumpy re-entry can scare people off. So where I would start is going back to that empowerment lens, focusing on yourself. So making sure that you feel confident that you are taking good care of yourself because that is one of the biggest things with emotional availability. Making sure that you are cared for enough that you can express to another person and hold space for them because that's not an easy thing to do. Vulnerability is scary. It's really scary. And so you need to make sure that you're well taken care of, like a little houseplant. You're getting enough sunshine, you're hydrated, you're well fed. So I would start there and then go at a pace that feels comfortable for you. Push yourself outside of your comfort zone, but you don't need to go from no dates to going on a date every night in the week. Maybe it just starts with attending more social events, getting back into the social groove. And from there, maybe you download a dating app and you decide to spend 10 minutes every night on that app. And from there, you decide you're going to set one date per week. Can you tell I'm a big fan of setting like little smart goals? So I think breaking it down into bite-sized chunks so it doesn't feel like this huge mountain we have to climb. No, it's just one step at a time. And yeah, it's going to be difficult at first, but your endurance will build up and you'll be more in touch with yourself. And I think even if you're dating and not yet found your person, there is so much learning we can do in that process about ourselves, about what we want in another person. So, bite-sized steps and also learning to shift your mindset so that it doesn't feel so pressured. I think we all have gone back into dating thinking, okay, any date could be the date where I meet my future wife, husband, partner. This is so exciting. And then you don't. And we start to get just a little worn down and frustrated. But dating is just a way to connect with people. Maybe it turns into a romantic connection, maybe it doesn't, but it doesn't have to be the big, scary, it's now or never.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. Yeah, speaking about pressure, like when people come out of a relationship that had a lot of pressure and to the point that it forced them to focus on their professional career, but they've been able to now start dating again, right? They start looking at maybe different dynamics because they don't want to get into something with too much pressure again. So they start looking, maybe there's something different that is more suitable for themselves. And they look at things like monogamy versus non-monogamy, for example, and to see if there's anything different that they can do this time that will be more conducive to who they are. So, in that context, what is your viewpoint on monogamy versus non-monogamy for relationships?
I think it entirely depends on the person and entirely depends on where they are in their personal journey. I have seen non-monogamous relationships work so beautifully when all parties involved are very clear on what it is they're looking for, have the ability to communicate that with another person, and continue to communicate because, jealousy will arise. Non-monogamy is not about a lack of jealousy, it's about knowing how to handle jealousy in a productive manner and both in conversation with yourself and in conversation with another person. So I think it's just important to understand your intentions because if you are getting back into the dating world saying, I want to explore non-monogamy because I think it will be less pressure. It might, but how are you still going to connect with other people? Because if you're just looking for the shallower level for something, just fun, you don't have to do non-monogamy. You can just date. as long as you're communicating with everybody involved so that no one is sidelined when they hear, yeah, I'm dating three people right now, didn't you know? So as long as communication lines are open, it can absolutely work. And I think non-monogamy serves different people better than others. For some people, it's a way to outsource their needs. So I think we can expect from our partners everything. They wear all the hats, they take care of all our needs. They're, a romantic partner, a best friend, a peer, an adventure buddy. They're everything. And that's a lot of pressure, like you said. So non-monogamy can be great in that way for, finding connection and different needs being met from different people. But I also think for those who prefer monogamy, which like I do personally in my own life, there's a way to seek all of those things from other people in your life. So I think finding a good relationship, a romantic relationship, is just as much about, finding that one person as it is about ensuring that you have a good support network around you, a good social network, because, you know, it's impossible for one person to meet all your needs. So whether you're doing that through non-monogamy or through strengthening your social net, it's totally up to you.
Excellent, excellent, fantastic. Yeah, and you mentioned jealousy. Jealousy can always come up, like you said, whether it's
Oh, I can't
monogamy
hear
or
you.
non-monogamy, right? So, like for example, in a monogamous situation, it could be like I noticed that you're looking at this person or speaking to this person, and in a non-monogamous situation, it could be like you're spending more time with this partner than with me. So, like when there is jealousy, like the partner that's always been accused of these things starts to feel like, how can I communicate to my partner that there's nothing to be jealous of? And like the partner that's accusing all the time would like to feel more secure. So, in your opinion, how could the person that's always feeling these jealous emotions start to feel more secure without feeling that jealous emotion all the time?
Such a good question. And I think we all deal with jealousy to some extent. So it's learning to step away from the comparison game because I think when that jealousy comes up, we're looking at the other person. We're looking at our partner, we're looking at the other person they're interacting with, and we're saying, like, why? Well, what's wrong with me? What do I not have that they're getting more attention or that you're looking at them? Does that mean you don't like looking at me? It's not necessarily about that. So learning to step away from the comparison, and that involves a lot of grounding in yourself. Again, the empowerment lens. So feeling confident in what it is that you have to offer, feeling confident in your relationship with yourself, and learning to communicate beyond you're looking at that person and I feel jealous, or you're spending more time with that person and I feel jealous. Learning to say, you know, I'm feeling insecure about my appearance. And when you look at another person, it brings up that insecurity. Can do XYZ so that I still feel beautiful in your eyes? Or can we create more consistent plans so that I don't feel neglected? It's on all of us. It goes back to that giving them the cheat codes. You can't just throw your emotions at them. You have to understand enough to know what's going on, why it's happening, and work collaboratively to come up with a solution.
Yeah, very beautiful. Like it's excellent when your partner can communicate with you and let you understand that you're safe in that kind of a way. And it could eliminate a lot of that sense of jealousy if the communication, like you mentioned, is there. But sometimes, there's some truth to the jealousy or why they're feeling jealous because
Yeah.
infidelity has actually happened in the relationship. Someone has stepped out. So when this happens, there has been trust that's been broken, right? So
Mhm.
sometimes the partner doesn't communicate what has happened, and sometimes they do. So once they communicate this, if they decide to communicate this, the partner that's been cheated on now has to decide if they want to continue the relationship or if they want to break up. So in your opinion, what is your viewpoint on forgiveness after infidelity? Do you feel like a relationship can build back to where it was before after such an incident?
I think that we can't look at it as building back to where it was before, but we can look at it as building to a new height. So, depending on the relationship agreement, and I think cheating is going to be different to every person. To some people, it's, physical intimacy. To some people, it's just, I've been talking to another person about my deeper emotions. So understanding where that line is for each person. And, I think it takes a lot of work on both parts of, reestablishing that internal safety so that you can seek safety in another person. And for the person who did cheat, it's a matter of understanding how that hurt your partner. And I think also understanding why they stepped out, what was missing that pushed them to seek in another person. And once you have that understanding of each other again, I think it won't necessarily be the same as before, but it can still be, you know, depth and safety. And it's just going to be a little bit different, but no less beautiful.
Excellent, excellent. Well, Stephanie, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for everything that you've shared. Where could people find you, find out more about you, and find out more about what you do?
Yeah, I have a website, stephaniesalemcoaching.com. You can find me on social media as well, stephanie.rose.salem. I do coaching content and just fun adventures from my life, living in the mountains and doing circus performance. So
Excellent.
you'll get a whole depth.
Excellent, excellent. And for the viewers, the links to her socials will be in the description so you can contact Stephanie and find out more about what she does. Once again, Stephanie, thank you so much for coming on. Any final
Thank you
words
so much,
before you?
Kayo.
Excellent. Any final words before you wrap up?
Just anyone can have the relationship they desire, and I believe in you. Romance is
Excellent.
lovely.
Thank you so much, Stephanie.
Thank you.